Okay. Welcome everyone. It's 8:05, so I think we'll get kicked off. Welcome to the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator's Demo Day 2.0. This is our second demo day. Every now and then you might see me pause to let a bunch of people in. Actually, let me make a few people co-host and then I won't have to do that as much anymore. Bear with me. Okay, I've got a couple of co-hosts that were appointed whether they like it or not. Thanks, guys. Right, so welcome to the Stanford Blockchain Accelerator's Demo Day 2.0. This is our second demo day. We've got 11 teams today from across cohorts 1 and 2, and they're going to showcase what they've been working on. Quick intro to me. I'm Gil Rosen. I'm head of the accelerator. I guess 2-minute background. I was a big data entrepreneur. Went to GSB in 2016, where I first started the roller coaster that is crypto. Afterwards, did the exit turn investor thing. I've been angel investing in a slew of industries, including crypto, and came back to Stanford to study tech policy because I was looking at a lot of regulatory heavy industries. That's how I got involved with the accelerator. I love building companies. I have PTSD from doing it a couple times, so I'd rather help other people who are masochistic on their journey towards making the world a better place. About the accelerator, so the accelerator is part of the Stanford Blockchain Club. It was founded last year by Kun Peng, who's on the call right now as well, with the help of Dale Sard and Ifshta Agrawal. And I joined shortly after. We've had over 20 teams that have collectively raised over 50 million in funding from like the top VCs. Most of them have either launched or about to launch their projects, and it's been really exciting working with them over the last 9 months. So we're going to see a bunch of them today. Like the way the accelerator works is we've got teams. We have about 10 teams who we take across a 5-month program and support them through every aspect of company building, from need validation, product, go-to-market, tokenomics, fundraising, launch, etc. This year, we're formalizing the program a bit more, and we're launching a mentor network where we'll have like 30 industry and thought leaders supporting the teams at a much closer level. So we're eager to kind of have them be more involved as well. If you would like to apply for the next cohort, it will be starting at the end of November. Applications are due on November 8th. They're open to Stanford students and alum. Please apply, reach out to me if you haven't seen a link for that. If you would like to be part of the mentor network, please apply, reach out to me. I'm happy to get you the information. And if you're currently a student and are interested in being on the operations team of the accelerator, we welcome any and all help. There's a crap ton of work that's required to support everything from the teams themselves to the mentors to our relationships, our events. We host quite a number of events that are accelerator specific, as well as together with the blockchain club. The blockchain club itself is run by Priyanka. Priyanka's on this call as well. If you would like to be involved in the blockchain club, please reach out to her. If you don't have her information, please reach out to me and I'll connect you with her. The blockchain club has close to 3,000 members, I believe. And the aim of the club itself is kind of a mix of hardcore research. They sit on the governance boards of a number of projects, as well as general education and support of the blockchain ecosystem, and of course the accelerator, which I'm a part of. So we definitely welcome your help and involvement. We believe that a greater and stronger Stanford blockchain community is better for all. As for the teams within the accelerator itself, we tend to focus, and the teams that we kind of let in and that we like to support, we tend to focus on more technical blockchain and Web3 infrastructure projects that are building a more scalable, performant, and cost-effective Web3 infrastructure, as well as those projects that have clear real-world utility today and can help stimulate demand for Web3 technologies. And really our aim is to support blockchain founders in building the future of Web3. So with that, I'm hitting 8:10, which is exactly when our first team is supposed to start. So Akshay from Holiday, I believe I will hand it over to you One quick note to the teams. Please raise your hand. There are a few hundred people in this chat. It's difficult for us to find the right person to pass over control to. So if you raise your hand, we can easily hand over control to you. So with that, Akshay, I think I see you.
Awesome.
And there you go. Awesome.
Just confirming, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Gil, for setting up this whole thing. And of course, to Kun and others for creating the accelerator as a whole. I think it's a fantastic program that Stanford is very, very lucky to have. But I can start with a very short, quick intro of myself. So I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Halliday. I was at Stanford until very recently, was doing my PhD in financial econ, but have been on leave since March, along with my co-founder Griffin, who's also on leave, working on Halliday full-time. So we'll tell you a little bit about Halliday. So we're building in the blockchain gaming space. And this is something that, for those of you who aren't as familiar, is a super exciting, rapidly growing space in this industry right now. There are a ton of fantastic games that are being built on top of blockchain. There's a ton of innovation that's happening, and there's a ton of talented game developers coming from all over, flooding into the space and really redefining what gaming is here. So we were set out in this space as a financial solution. So what we're doing is we are building a payment solution for blockchain game and metaverse assets. And to give a little bit more context here, a lot of blockchain games have NFTs that people have to purchase either in game or to even get into the game. So some of these might be skins that players want in the game for their characters. They might want virtual swords to use in a battle. They might want horses for a race. They might want virtual land. They might want a spaceship or something of that sort. For all sorts of these assets, you will purchase these NFTs on a marketplace and be able to use those in the game. Now, the problem here is that a lot of these NFTs aren't exactly cheap. So you might see an asset that costs $100, $500, $1,000, and some that are even higher. And it's not entirely accessible to a lot of players. So what we do is we try to empower players by making NFTs more accessible. And the way we do that is that instead of players having to pay upfront to purchase an NFT, we allow them to do installment payments over time. So take an asset that costs $200. $200 at first, you might get sticker shock. That might be kind of scary. We say, okay, hey, you don't have to pay $200 immediately. You can pay $50 every 2 weeks for the next 2 months, for example. And that's how you can pay off the asset and get your ownership of that. One thing that is very, very important to us is ownership in the space. And we want to make sure that players become owners themselves, that they have all the benefits and advantages that ownership can bring. So our solution is very much focused on helping players secure and attain that ownership. The best part is that, even though you're paying off an asset over time, you're paying in installments, and you're doing you have to make all those payments eventually. You can start playing with these assets right away. There's no you got to wait 2 or 3 months. There's none of that. As soon as you click our button of checkout, you can start playing immediately, and you just go for it. Jump right in the game, start playing with it. So one thing that's very cool about our solution is that it's very seamless integration, and our user experience is super smooth. So here's one of our first games that we're just going live with, League of Kingdoms. And as you see, it is an example of what their marketplace looks like. They've got their traditional buy now button. Here's the price of the NFT. It translates $325 from this. And right under the buy now button, we have a pay later with Halliday option. So they can just click that button on the game marketplace, which we've integrated with as like a PayPal-like button here. And it instantly offers a simple walkthrough through this pop-up screen. This is the most important button screen that shows up in our process. It's kind of like what this payment schedule looks like. So here's this $325 asset. We split it up into 4 payments of $81. Here's when they're due. Here's how much you need to pay. You can pay in whatever. You can pay in fiat and dollars. You can pay with credit cards. You can pay with cryptos. You can pay in ETH. You can pay in if it's a Polygon game, you can pay in Matic. You can pay in a bunch of different currencies or crypto, and we'll accept all of them. And so we're super flexible and easy to use. And as soon as you click this button, complete purchase, we will begin the process. Everything will happen automatically. And within 2 minutes, you will be able to start playing with the asset right away. So Halliday we have a very cool team of a lot of the best builders in the space. Our team is very heavily based from Stanford. Both of us co-founders are from Stanford, and we have some of our best people from other top companies, both in tech and finance. And we're backed by some of the top funds in the space, such as A16Z, Hashed, A Capital, and SV Angel. So of course, right now we are recruiting. We are recruiting for our software engineering roles. This is something where a lot of talent is needed to help build out our backend integrations, to help build out our smart contracts, to help build out our front end, and our pretty much we're hiring across full stack, smart contract, a lot of things here. Software engineering is one of our exciting divisions. We're also hiring in quant and trading roles right now. This one always raises some eyebrows, like this is an interesting one for a crypto company, but we're doing a lot in terms of risk modeling, credit modeling, hedging, de-risking, and this is a very big part of our business as well. So we're always looking for talent in this space. We're looking for people on the partnership side, so people who are interested in helping reach out to games, NFT marketplaces, other things, chains, ecosystems, helping us develop those relationships out. Always looking for the best and most interesting people in these spaces as well. And with that, naturally, of course, on our partnership side, if you're building a blockchain game, naturally, we are trying to help blockchain games onboard more people, make NFTs more accessible, and help their game become more reachable to a lot more people. If you're a gaming platform, similar story, we're going to help you. We're trying to help increase volume. We're trying to help increase accessibility for more players. And then for NFT marketplaces, we can help try to get these assets reach to more players, all sorts of things. So as of now, in terms of where we are currently integrating with with League of Kingdoms, as I mentioned, and as soon as that integration goes live, we will probably announce another series of integrations series of deals that we've had with other top games and marketplaces and all in the space. So I'll always look out for those on our Twitter. But with that, I'll just say a few more words about what we're super excited by in this space. Our mission at Halliday is to accelerate the emergence of digital civilization, and we're super excited about games. We love games, all of us. Before we partner with any game, our entire team sits down and actually plays the game, and we love doing that. We're a gaming company, but this is for us a lot more about than just games. This is about where gaming is headed and where we see this space going. For us, what we're super excited about is how games are turning into another layer of interaction, another social layer, a community layer between people where interactions of all different types are happening. So games today are becoming less and less about achieving certain objectives, like completing a quest or defeating the enemy. It's about going on these platforms, even in Web 2, like Roblox, like Fortnite, Minecraft, and having social experiences with friends. This is where we think this space is going. Kids are having birthday parties in Roblox. People are throwing, Travis Scott and Ariana Grande are throwing concerts on Fortnite with tens of millions of people in attendance. And this is what we're super excited about. This is where this space is heading. This is going to be what turns into a metaverse and digital civilization. So what we're excited about is building those economic tools, that economic infrastructure that can make the space more accessible, that can let people who don't necessarily have cash up front, who don't necessarily have access to a bunch of different resources, to be able to get into this and to onboard into one of the coolest new experiences that's being built right now in front of our eyes. So with that, thanks for the time. And again, thanks, Gil, for the invite to present here.
Definitely. Thank you, Akshay. And Nitesh is going to be presenting next from Axel, and you should have control. But one of the things that I love about what you're doing, Akshay, is more than just buy now, pay later for NFTs. This is really building a financial infrastructure layer for the metaverse and being able to integrate with all of these digital worlds and create financial services across all of these digital worlds, which is super interesting. Okay. And Nitesh, whenever you're ready, feel free to jump in.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much for having us, Gil. And yeah, this is really awesome. Hey guys, my name's Nitish. I'm one of the co-founders of Axel. I'm here with my co-founder here, Sophia, today. All the co-founders are actually from Stanford, so we're super excited to be showing you guys what we're up to. To give you some background on Axel, I'll share my screen and get started, and then we'll actually walk you through exactly how Axel works and what we're up to. But I can start with just kind of our high level vision, and we can kind of get into a cool developer demo we have prepared for you guys. But at a high level, what we are at Axel, you can think of us as basically the decentralized finance developer platform and API. So we essentially built a really robust suite of very modular and really easy to use read-write DeFi APIs that lets developers and companies integrate DeFi into any of their applications or systems in just a line of code. So we let developers do things like lending, swapping, staking, borrowing, exchanging, any sort of different DeFi action fully non-custodially and all in just one API call. And a lot of what motivates us every day at Axel is actually the idea of powering financial freedom for people. Today, as we speak, 2 billion people across the world, and actually over 2 billion people, don't have access to financial services. And we guys are all in the blockchain community. We understand that DeFi and on-chain finance has the ability to actually change and enable anybody across the world for the first time in history to enable basically access financial services with just a public-private key pair. So now you can borrow, you can lend money, you can swap tokens, you can earn yield really easily without needing to basically have any sort of permission gateway to it. But today, DeFi has not reached critical mass yet. And as developers, we've understood that a lot of the reason behind that is because building on top of the blockchain, especially building on top of DeFi, is an incredibly arduous and difficult process. You're doing everything from trying to, let's say you want to build a wallet that lets you deposit on Aave or swap tokens on Uniswap, to build any sort of integration. You're doing things like hunting down tons of different proxy smart contracts to parse through and to have your token trace through. You're writing basically hundreds of lines of Solidity adapters and integrations to stitch together each of these contracts together. You're trying to basically, sync to every single smart contract itself via, their APIs, or these very large memory inefficient JSON data structures that underlie what a contract is and how it works. You're trying to sync up to every single one of these APIs, download them. It's very memory inefficient. You're finding and paying for RPC node providers. If, let's say you're, not a Web3 company, maybe you're a fintech, maybe you're a neobank, maybe you're a GameFi company that's not yet introduced to the blockchain, maybe you're any sort of exchange, you may not even know what an RPC node provider is or how to even set up blockchain nodes to be able to interact with the blockchain. You're parsing raw blockchain data from those nodes to format transactions into computer readable formats. You're trying to calculate correct gas fees to make sure transactions don't get dropped. And the worst part is maybe you built you built a fintech, an exchange, an aggregator, a wallet on top of a given protocol like Aave or Uniswap, and that protocol eventually, turns to upgrade. Aave v2 goes to Aave v3. You have to migrate your infrastructure entirely to a new set of smart contracts, a new set of APIs, a new set of addresses, and you're trying to migrate all of your liquidity over to a new set of protocols because those protocols have upgraded. And managing protocol upgrades is one of actually the biggest pain points for a lot of our design partners and customers we work with today. And so at a high level, when we talked to the tons of the folks who reached out to us to use Axel, one of the biggest pain points we saw was that this really convoluted, complex process adds up to months of wasted engineering time for companies. And so what we at Axel do is we take this months-long process and we've abstracted down to something as simple as literally a few lines of code in a few minutes. So now when you think about the primitives in DeFi, whether that's lending, staking, swapping, or yield, these aren't these super complex and disparate adapters that essentially a developer has to build on their own anymore. But with Axel, it becomes one unified, seamless, reliable developer interface to scalably read and write to multiple DeFi protocols fully non-custodially and all very securely. And so today, I'll actually be showing you guys a bit of a demo we spun up today in terms of how actually you guys as developers can actually use the Axel SDK to power a given React front end. So what I can do is here, I'll share my screen, but let me go ahead and pull up a React basically front end that we actually spun up for ourselves and show you guys exactly how we can power that React front end with the Axel SDK. So I'll just switch my camera over here if you guys can see me, and I can go ahead and share my screen here. Let me pull it up. Feel free to raise your hand or tell me if you guys can see this. Are we live here? Can you guys see what I'm doing here? All good. Okay, sweet. Cool. So let's actually get started. So basically, just again, this is a React front end that I spun up. And I'll actually basically just start our React app to show you guys exactly how we can use the Axel SDK to read and write to the blockchain really easily. So I'll just make start here. We love make files here at Axel. So we're just going to spin up a React front end here using a make file. So I'll let that spin up. We will spin that up in a localhost. I'll actually not on the wrong screen here. Let me move here, spin that up. Cool. Can you guys see this, by the way? Awesome. Sweet. Cool. So let's get started. So let's say we're building a dApp that lets us do any of these different integrations that we power: Aave, Compound, Uniswap, Lido, Yearn, etc. First thing we need to do in order to build a dApp is we need to be able to connect a wallet, right? So Axel lets you do that really easily. So we'll notice here, we actually have a wallet connect button that underlies exactly, how this button works. All we need to do to power any sort of wallet connection, whether that's Coinbase wallet, MetaMask, Taurus, any of the wallets that are powered by the wallet connect standard, we just have to pass in the Axel.connect provider function is literally one line of code into an on-click handler. And all we can do now is, if we notice here, we will, I just have a test wallet set up. I'll unconnect the wallet for the purpose of this demo. But you'll see here that actually, if we try to connect the wallet, we can actually go ahead and connect it really easily using the Axel SDK. So it's super easy to do just in literally one line of code. Let's say now we want to be able to do anything, for example, like, let's say depositing on the Aave protocol. I actually loaded up some real ETH here so we can use to test on mainnet. So we'll see here is that we have a front end, but there's a lot of missing data, right? We have, ETH, we're trying to figure out how much AWETH we'll get in return. For context, AWETH is the redemption token that we get from Aave whenever we deposit on it. So let's say I deposit 1 ETH onto the Aave protocol. Aave will give me a certain amount of basically 1 AWETH back that I can use to redeem my underlying share of collateral whenever I choose, plus the added amount of yield that I earn for being a liquidity provider to Aave. So right now, you'll see that this doesn't work, right? We don't actually have the access to keep powering this. And now we're actually going to figure out how to power this. And we're going to, figure out how we're going to get our lending APY, how we're going to pull our balances in our wallet. All these different pieces we can easily pull via the Axel SDK. And then lastly, the actual ability to lend and write basically to the blockchain, lend ETH can also be powered via Axel. Right now, it's not, but we're going to do that in just a second. So if we head over to our Aave Action UI here, we'll see that we have a lot of stuff commented out. The purpose of the demo, I'll just speed through it quickly. But if you want to understand how each of these functions work and how we can use them, you can head over to our docs at docs.axel.dev and see how it works all in real time. But here, all we need to do, let's just start with pulling balances. So let's say we want to get the amount of ETH that sits in our wallet and the amount of AWETH that sits in our wallet. So right now, as you can see, MetaMask, we have a little bit of ETH in our wallet, $20 worth of ETH, and no AWETH right now. So if we actually want to pull that, we can use our Axel balance looker here to set the state in our React variable. Right now, it's set to loading. But if we just pass in the Axel client and our token options, so we want to pull the token balance of ETH, chain set to null, we just say that if we set the chain to null, that means it'll pull from whatever chain the wallet's connected to, and we'll pass in the return balance into the balance setter here, and we'll see the balance setter will just set the state of, in this case, AWETH as well as ETH. So all we need to do is uncomment this, and we'll see here that we get our immediate ETH loaded right here, and that can all be pulled via Axel SDK. We can do the same thing for AWETH. Right now we have no AWETH, so we'll see that the Axel SDK will tell us we have no AWETH. And now we just have a few more things to load in before we actually power lending. So right now, as you can see here, if you try to basically type in a certain amount of ETH, there's no AWETH that gets loaded. That's because we need to actually we actually need to get the swap rate between how much AWETH will we get back for ETH. And we can get the swap rate for any 2 token pairs with the Axel SDK. But for this one, we'll just do ETH and AWETH. So we'll uncomment this here, and we can immediately load in our swap rate just via the Axel.getSwapRate method, pass in the sell token, how much we'll give, the buy token, how much we're getting back in AWETH, what kind of token. And now you'll see here that if we type in our token, we'll get back a 1-to-1 pair in this case with AWETH to ETH. Again, but there are sometimes more complex token pairs that aren't 1-to-1, and Axel SDK all has that loaded out of the box. And now all we need to do is power a couple more things. For example, our lending APY, and then actually how much way will cost per gas unit to transact on the blockchain. We can easily do that with the Axel SDK. So we'll see here is that if we want to get the APY, all we need to do is comment this out, use the Axel.getAPY method for the lending transaction, the lending action class, and then for the protocol Aave, and for the token that we're lending, and we're cutting off decimal places at 2, we'll see if we uncomment, we will get back the real-time lending APY for being a liquidity provider on the Aave protocol. And this is all pulled in real time from our smart contract infrastructure we built. And we can do the same thing for gas prices. So if we uncomment the gas price, we'll see here with a gas priority of 1, meaning that we use an internal scale that if you set a gas priority of 0, that means you're willing to go through a very slow transaction. A gas priority of 2 means you're willing to pay a lot of gas for a very fast transaction. A gas priority of 1 means that you want to be somewhere in the middle. You'll see that you'll have to basically pay around 12 Gwei per unit of gas to power an average transaction on the blockchain. And the last thing we'll do now is, now what we've done is we basically pulled a ton of data using the Axel SDK, but the real magic happens in the actual write suite. How do we actually write to the blockchain? So again, right now we can't do that because we don't have the Axel.lend method powered. It's commented out. All we need to do is comment in Axel.lend. And all we literally need to do in order to power this lending transaction is pass the Axel.lend method the protocol, the token, and then the amount. How much does the user actually want to lend? We're just pulling that from the amount that is passed into the form here in our Axel form. So all we need to do now is save this here, this Axel.lend method. And now we'll see here that if, let's say we want to lend let's say 0.003 ETH, which in this case, I think is around like $10 worth of ETH. Now we can actually click the lend ETH button, and we'll see here that we actually get the fully loaded call data in our MetaMask wallet. We can pay our gas, confirm. And now we've literally just powered lending on the blockchain in literally one line of code. And the beautiful part here is that we never had to touch a single private key at all. This gets powered fully out of the box. So we'll see that our ETH got debited, and now we're going to get some AWETH credit. It's just going to take some while for this transaction to settle. So we'll wait here, just because sometimes the mainnet can be slow. It might take a second, but we'll see now here that our balance looker actually read it faster than the MetaMask wallet, surprisingly, because Axel's better than MetaMask. But we'll see here that AWETH, we immediately get 0.003 AWETH, which is just literally how much we lend in ETH. And you'll see here that in our MetaMask wallet, if we scroll down, we get that equivalent amount of AWETH sitting right in our wallet. And we can do that, again, all in one line of code and fully non-custodially, not touching a single private key via just the Axel SDK. So it's super easy out of the box. And if you guys want to check it out, you can head over to our docs to use the Axel SDK. And the last thing I'll say, I know I'm probably running short on time before we finish up, is that if you guys are, right now actually at Axel, we are hiring. So if you guys are interested in kind of exploring some of these really cool problems, scan our QR code, check out our website. And we'd love to, have you come work with us, as well as come use the Axel SDK and the Axel API. So if you guys are interested, we have a sign up form, we have a hiring form. So we'd love to work with you guys. But again, thank you so much for having us, and hopefully this is really cool to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Nitesh. And this session is being recorded. Also, if you want to reach out to any of the teams, you can either access the recording or reach out to me. I've put my information in the chat, and we'll connect you as appropriate. But sweet, this is great. Daniel with Nexus is up next, and while Daniel is getting
all right,
set up, you good, Daniel?
There you go. Can you see this?
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, great. Thanks again, Nitesh. Daniel, let's go.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I can vouch for the Axel and Holiday teams, amazing teams there. Okay, so I'm presenting Nexus. Nexus is essentially a blockchain infrastructure startup here from Stanford that is spun out from research at the cryptography laboratory. And it's essentially a very large scale distributed computer system. And the problem that we're tackling is one of the three greatest problems in the blockchain space. If you think about which are the largest problems in the space, it's scalability, right? You have rollups, etc., trying to provide faster transactions. Privacy, we have zero knowledge proofs, etc. But interoperability, which is the problem of how to connect smart contracts and blockchains to the real world, that has been a largely unexplored part of the space. Traditionally, it has been addressed by Oracle network providers. But here at Nexus, essentially, we are trying to, solve this problem generally. And by that, we mean is we're trying to make blockchains fully interoperable with any other systems. And this includes external blockchains or even the internet. And the problem that exists is that developers currently have no way to program or deploy their own decentralized Oracle networks. So for those who are not familiar about what an Oracle network is, an Oracle in the blockchain space is an external entity to the blockchain that connects your smart contracts to some external system, like the internet, like web servers, like other blockchains. And so what we are doing at Nexus is allowing developers to build, program, and deploy their own decentralized Oracle networks. And so the solution to this problem is exactly what we're building. Essentially, an event-driven, large-scale, blockchain-agnostic, decentralized cloud computing network in which we are enabling something that has not been possible before. And we call this decentralized cloud functions. Nexus is essentially a platform for computation in the form of decentralized cloud functions that allow you as a developer to connect your smart contracts on whatever blockchain it is to the internet. And so you can program any arbitrary interoperability logic between any set of systems. So you can connect any blockchain, you can connect any web server, you can connect anything between the Web 2 and Web 3 worlds together in any arbitrary way. And we are essentially introducing a new form of decentralized programs. We call these decentralized programs Oracle applications. And now let me tell you that Oracle applications do not exist in the market. Current Oracle providers out there, they inject, for example, data feeds on chain, like token prices, etc. But you as a developer, you're not able to program your own decentralized Oracle network in order to do whatever you want to do. And I will go to examples later. But we are essentially proposing a new kind of smart contracts, if you will. These are in the form of decentralized cloud networks. Decentralized cloud networks monitor blockchains, run off-chain computations, and after the off-chain computations are done, they inject the result to that. And Oracle applications run on top of decentralized cloud network, which themselves run on top of Nexus. And essentially, what this allows you to do as a developer is to make your smart contracts interoperable with anything that exists outside itself. For example, you can connect and fetch and push any kind of data into any Web2 system from a smart contract. You can fetch and push data into any other blockchain out there that, for example, you can call functions from Solana, from a smart contract from Ethereum, or you can monitor what happens on Arbitrum from another L2 like Optimism. You can program any kind of event-driven automation logic. For example, you can say within your smart contract, if this happens on this smart contract, then go and execute this function on this other smart contract. You can also run heavy off-chain computations on one of these networks. And you can also store a lot of data on any of these networks. For example, you can store NFT metadata and replicate it in a decentralized way in one of these decentralized computer networks, and essentially make it updatable from a blockchain. So whatever has to do with the Oracle problem, interoperating with external systems, you can program it through deploying your own decentralized cloud network through Nexus. And essentially, the thesis that we're proposing is it's a pretty big thesis. What we're saying is that the architecture of decentralized applications, the future of them, is actually different from what most people think. We think that decentralized applications will be composed of both smart contracts on the blockchains, whatever blockchains you want, and an Oracle application which connects those smart contracts together and connects them to the real world. So what you can see here at the right is essentially the architecture of a world computer that we are proposing as part of solving this problem, which is the Oracle problem, which is essentially you have an Oracle application on Nexus, which handles any kind of event-driven interoperability logic with the external world and connects to your smart contract application. For those who are interested, our technology is it's kind of heavy. Essentially, we're currently operating as a Cosmos zone. So if you're familiar with the Cosmos project and other projects that are building on Cosmos, Nexus is essentially its own blockchain. So it's its own layer one, built on top of the Tendermint consensus. And then we have a lot of cryptography that allows Nexus to authenticate itself across multiple blockchains. And lastly, Nexus has its own virtual machine, just as Ethereum has its own virtual machine, the EVM, or other protocols have their own virtual machine to execute functions. Nexus has its own virtual machine where Oracle applications are executed. And in fact, the Nexus virtual machine is a WebAssembly-based virtual machine, which means you can code your Oracle applications in many languages. Specifically, for example, you can code them in Rust, and you can code them in JavaScript and deploy them to Nexus. And there you have your Oracle application serving whatever smart contract systems that you have. Nexus is backed by a good suite of investors, including Dragonfly, DeFi Alliance, SV Angel, and multiple others. And well, we are hiring heavily, not in numbers, but in power. And so if you love math or you love physics or anything that is, like a lot of math or, very, very technical, but whether that be cryptography, distributed systems, or if you love to program in Rust or even know something about WebAssembly, please reach out to us just hit jobs.nexus.xyz. Yeah, we're very excited to know about you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Daniel. Excited about your project as well. Cool. Next, we have, I believe, Matt from Constellation. Matt, I think I made you co-host. Let me know if you're ready and can share your screen, and feel free to get started.
Cool. Sounds great. As I share my screen, just wanted to give, again, a huge shout out to the SBA team for all their work and in supporting us and setting this up, and also to the other presenters, Nitish, Daniel and Akshay. It's great. It's great to see you guys, and it's cool to see the progress that you all have made. So yeah, I'm Matt Katz. I'm one of the co-founders of Constellation Labs, and in short, we're tackling one of the other three blockchain problems that Daniel was talking about, scalability. So we're building tools and infrastructure to help, blockchain scale to hundreds of millions of users. So I'm sure I don't need to tell this audience this, but Web3 is going mainstream. Even despite the recent bear market, people are still building. You have the kind of traditional crypto segment, DeFi and NFTs, and growth there is still growing strong. But we also have these new sectors, gaming, obviously a ton of investment happening in gaming, a lot happening under the surface. A lot of crypto games are going to be released in the coming years. And we also have social. So Lens Protocol, which is on-chain social, is very, very close to hitting 100,000 users. And if anyone's seen recently, Reddit released some stats from their NFT launch, and that has actually onboarded 3 million new people into the crypto ecosystem. And so as a company, we're super excited about these developments because really for the first time, these are going to be mass market blockchain apps targeted not towards like the same insular set of 20,000 crypto nerds that are using Uniswap, Aave, et cetera, but really just general users, you and me and our parents and our friends who might not be super interested in crypto. But there's a massive bottleneck to this, and it's that monolithic blockchains aren't going to be able to handle the load. I did some research on this. I've often compared the Ethereum blockchain to an Atari 2600. It turns out that I was actually super optimistic about the Ethereum computer's processing power. It's actually even worse. So Ethereum, even though it's a global network of computers, because every single computer on the network needs to be doing the exact same work, the network doesn't get faster with every added node. It actually gets slower, and it's basically only as fast as the weakest link. Plus, you have some network latency that slows everything down. So, from the perspective of an actual application developer who's building smart contracts on Ethereum, the blockchain is an extremely slow single-threaded computer, equivalent basically to a computer from 1975, where you need to pay for every single CPU instruction that you send, and you're competing for computational resources. But for potentially thousands or tens of thousands of applications. And so that brings us to our company's key insight. And it's just that no single blockchain or even no small set of blockchains are going to be sufficient to handle all of the blockchain usage over the next decade, right? In the same way that the web, at a certain point was a few hundred servers. Now, it's 100 million servers. We think that the blockchain space is going to explode, and thousands of blockchains are going to be necessary to take on this load as the crypto space scales up. So that brings us to what we're building. We're working on modular execution layers, layer 2 blockchains for massive mass market consumer blockchain apps. And so practically what that means we're building tools to help people deploy a custom performant layer 2 blockchain in one click with everything they need to get started building and deploying their app and shipping to millions of people. So from a technical perspective, that includes our optimistic layer 2 blockchain rollup. It also includes a bridge to a popular general purpose blockchain like Ethereum or Polygon. It includes a block explorer to allow users to see their transactions being processed in real time. It includes higher level APIs for developers to access blockchain data. And it involves performant RPC nodes, which are fully compatible with the Ethereum spec. So developers can easily add this chain to MetaMask or to their front-end APIs, Ethers.js, potentially Axel API in the future, and just get started building. We think really the benefits are, multifold for app-specific rollups. There's obviously the performance case that I've been talking about, but there's also customization. We allow rollups to run on any EVM-compatible blockchain, and in the future, you're going to be able to use different virtual machines on these rollups. So we're going to give folks the ability to write smart contracts, not just in Solidity, but in whatever virtual machine they want. Solana Sea Level, the Move VM, which is getting really popular with Aptos and Sui, or even using programming languages that regular developers are more familiar with. So things like Python, C# for Unity devs, etc. As well, a layer 2 blockchain can help a lot with value accrual. So we can allow folks to pay for gas fees with an application's native token, governance, or utility token. And as well, we can help these applications capture more transaction fees and MEV and either redistribute that value back to their users or internalize that as protocol revenue. A little bit about us and the company. We raised our first funding round back in March. That was led by Sequoia with participation from other Silicon Valley firms. It's a really exciting time for us. We've just hit mainnet readiness. So we're launching with a couple partners. One is Curio, which is a fully on-chain game. Another one is a very well-known DeFi protocol. I had to keep it secret because I was told that there would be press at this event, but definitely one that a lot of you have heard of, and we're powering a launch of their new product. And that's going to take us to about low 6 figures in annual recurring revenue. For the team, we're actively hiring. We've got a team, mostly Stanford folks, but one Berkeley guy snuck in. I don't know if I should have revealed that to this audience, but we're a fairly experienced team. We've worked both in big tech and startups, both Web 2 and Web 3 startups. And we love geeking out about blockchain technology. So if you're interested in potentially joining a company, we're hiring mostly engineers right now all across the stack, low-level systems. If you're interested in compiler theory or distributed systems, that's a perfect role for you. If you're more of a full stack front end or back end person, we also have a lot of work in that area. So our product engineering role is really great for that. As well, we're hiring folks more on the outbound developer experience, developer outreach side of things. So things like making content, potentially embedding yourself at hackathons, just generally helping developers onboard onto layer 2 rollups. We're hiring a good generalist engineer to help with that. And as well, we're hiring both full-time and intern positions. So yeah, thank you all. I've linked our Twitter handle here. You can visit our website, constellation.so, or email me or DM me on Twitter right there. I love geeking out about blockchain technology. So whether or not you have a blockchain app, you're considering deploying onto a rollup, or you are considering working, you're looking for a job, or you just are building something in the crypto space, I'd love to hear from you. Cool, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. This is great. And yeah, I think you guys are seeing from everyone that's presented so far, we love geeking out. This is very Stanford-esque. But we also, we're open. We like Berkeley folks. Nat, I believe you're up next. So whenever you're ready, feel free to share your screen. And thanks again, Matt.
Alrighty, nice to meet y'all. I'm Natalie Muir. I am the co-founder and CEO of Probably Something. We're going to talk about our product Lifeboat today. So this is me. I have a background in software engineering. I ran teams on the privacy side at Palantir for 5 years, and since came to GSB to complete the business degree. And this is Beth, my co-founder.
Well, great to be here. Before Probably Something, I was a tech lead and staff software engineer at Lyft, and I graduated GSB this past June.
And so what the heck is Probably Something? The aim of the company is broadly to make digital ownership more accessible and intuitive and approachable for everyone, not just folks like Beth and I, which are who are basically huge NFT collectors to our joy and detriment. Which brings us to the reason that we started our first product, which is effectively this quote, which is, I loved collecting NFTs until they ruined my life. And does anyone know who said this? Just quick poll, you can raise your hand. No one, it's actually us. So this is a quote from us, and actually it's basically everyone that owns digital assets today. And the reason for this is that if you want to keep up with a digital asset portfolio right now, there are obviously questions of how do you value all of your assets, and how do you think about leveraging staking opportunities, accessing new financial instruments. But for NFTs, a lot of what it centers around is just being overwhelmed with announcements. And so creators are constantly attempting to get the attention of their holders And if you're a collector, you're constantly in this world where you have 3,000 to 4,000 Discord announcements that you have absolutely zero time to really engage with. So we built a solution to this, and we call it Lifeboat. And the aim is to consolidate all of the signals from across the space, things like on-chain and off-chain governance, Discord announcements, Twitter announcements, all of these different sources upstream, and bring them into a user curated feed from all of those sources. And that's effectively what Lifeboat does. But rather than talk to you about it, we'll just show you what we built. As soon as we can share. Alrighty, so this is my feed in Lifeboat, and you can see I have 3 wallets connected right now because most individuals in the NFT space and the crypto space writ large have not just a hard wallet and a hot wallet. Most individuals now, at least in the type of user groups that we're interacting with, have a large number of wallets. So I've linked 3 here, and across all of that, you can see 73 collections that have been automatically pulled by Lifeboat to auto track in this feed. And then each of these is effectively a time-bound, categorized announcement from one of these projects. And importantly, this is not just a single one-to-one mapping of a single Discord announcement or a single tweet to a single task here. What we actually have is a team of 6 curators who are on a 24-hour shift schedule, curating all of this information, tagging it, and then pushing it out to users, in addition to some automated data integration technology. So that's what we're pushing right now. And then in addition to that, we are working with collections themselves to push tasks directly. So you'll see here, there's a signed and verified by project tag on this task. And that's because if you actually view the source on this, it's signed by a member of the project leadership team. And so we're working with projects like Pixel Vault, Ghosts, Chimpers, a lot of these NFT projects to enable them to not just get their message out to their communities, but better understand how users are interacting with that message. So in this case, if I switch to creator view here, which I have access to based on my access controls, you can see all the different tasks associated with a standard ecosystem. So 10KTF, for those who are familiar, is famously or infamously one of the most complex ecosystems out there. And you'll notice that here we have 4 live tasks associated with things that holders of this collection can do. And then we also have a number of past tasks. And so you can see all of the information that we're pushing out to our holders based on all of this. And then for each of these, you can view metrics associated with how many individuals have seen each of these, and then how many have interacted with the actual tasks. So this is one way that we're starting to bring this full loop of creators pushing content to collectors and capturing more of that data asset on top of the existing information that is generally available, like floor prices and volume and things like that we see basically everywhere. So that's Lifeboat. I'll stop sharing now and jump back to the presentation, actually. So to talk about our user basis right now, so we're currently token gated in Lifeboat. And so we have a Lifeboat pass, of which around 800 have been minted. And of those, we're seeing around 150 weekly active users. And to hear folks on Twitter talk about it, we generally received incredibly positive feedback thus far. And so folks like Tropo Farmer, if you're in crypto Twitter, and others are really getting a lot of utility out of this. And so we're actively building for them. The next benchmark for us on the collector side is going to be expanding this view to a lot more individuals. So enabling, thousands to tens of thousands of individuals to access this through our project partners. So those project partners, as I mentioned, are Chimpers, Pixel Vault, AlphaDog, Props, and Ghosts right now. And we're onboarding another group of these partners in the next 2 weeks. So we're growing very quickly, and eventually our plan is for Lifeboat to be accessible to any project and any collector that wants to use it to communicate with their communities. And in the interim, we're curating all the information in the NFT space for effectively the largest collections in the space. So going forward, there's a whole host of technical challenges we are tackling, and a lot are focused around the the indexing side, thinking about how we get on-chain and off-chain data working together in really compatible and thoughtful ways, and more acutely thinking about the ways that a task pushed to a user. So jumping back to this view, the way that these can actually auto mark done or auto basically get that on-chain information to reflect in our app. And so thinking about the whole life cycle of the ways that cross-chain and on-chain data it effectively is represented in what an individual needs to do to keep up to date is something that we're really focused on right now. So on that note, we are actively hiring and are betting on the future of digital ownership here. So if you believe like we do that these are important problems and increasing the accessibility of NFTs and digital assets more broadly, even extending into things like soul-bound tokens, then scan the QR code, shoot us an email, and we're happy to talk about dev positions primarily. And then any questions on that side?
Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the time, everyone.
Nat, thanks so much. We're going to get ready to switch over to Aman, but one of the things I love about my discussions with Nat, as well as with Daniel, with Nitesh, with Matt as well, is how they all think very deeply, not just about, okay, well, what am I solving immediately here, but more broadly, what is my vision for the Web3 future, and what does this mean, and what are the ramifications, and how do we start kind of small and then expand that? So thank you, Nat, and Beth, and Aman. Whenever you're ready, feel free to share. I'm going to also just very quickly mute everyone because I think we have a bunch of people that may have accidentally unmuted. So bear with me. I'll mute all and then unmute yourself, and then you'll be good to go.
Sure. Thank you, Gil. Appreciate it. Let me share my screen, make sure that everybody can see it. All right, so I'm Aman Johar from the NFT Brewery. We are the easiest way for onboarding businesses to enable next generation digital experiences. And the way we look at it, all digital experiences moving forward will be based in some form or format on NFTs. And that's why the idea of NFT Brewery to be able to serve everybody the flavor and the brew that they want. And we make it super simple for businesses to bring in their audiences and their distribution platforms to bring in their customers and consumers to be able to consume these digital experiences. And when I say we're talking about 3 major industries, and today we actually have customers, paying customers for all 3 of these focus areas. In entertainment, we are working with music labels and artists. For sports, we have customers in the baseball and soon in the golf space as well. And for brands, we actually worked with Estrella, which is an actual brewery, and we're trying to bring their audiences into the fold. And maybe there's a case study that I can, if we have time, I can go into that a little bit more. But these 3 are our major areas that we are focusing on. And as we started to build the business, what we realized is that most businesses are very ill-equipped for what's coming next. They still run on legacy software like Joomla or Drupal, which is in no way compatible with the ethos of Web3, right? And if you look at their developer side of it, there's about 25 million developers out there in the world, and only about 30K of them are actively building in the Web3 space. And most of the other issues concerning privacy or how they've built walled gardens around themselves, they're just not conducive to create new sorts of digital experiences. And this is where the NFT Brewery steps in to create the foundations, manage digital assets, and provide an API infrastructure basically so that any developer can build on top of experiences that they would like to do. We support all the EVM chains plus Solana. We have hybrid custodial, non-custodial wallet solutions, and all of these things can be enabled with very simple API integrations or SDKs. There's a large library of pre-built smart contracts, and if you want to bring in your own APIs and your own custom smart contracts, we can support that. For payments, we are partnering up with the PSPs as well to enable fiat and crypto payments. And on top of all of that, the last couple of weeks, we've obviously heard a lot about what's going on with optional royalties. We believe that royalties should not be optional, and we do guarantee zero revenue leakage as these digital assets are monetized over their life cycles. And that is what makes revenue a little bit more sticky for businesses, and this is the stuff that they like, right? And the market supporting it, right? We've seen from the brand side of it, companies like Artifact or Nike and Starbucks, they've taken the lead. But even on the consumer side, there's been a lot of surveys, and especially the sports, if you look at the sports audience, people are actually willing to spend a significant amount of money to acquire NFTs and enable digital ownership of assets. And this is a good confluence of why brands really need to have a direct consumer and a customer relationship, especially the ones that depend on large distribution channels who have no idea who their end consumer is. This is a fantastic way for them to build their following and keep them engaged. The market sizes are phenomenally large, right? Our sweet spot happens to be 63,000 businesses. These are brands and advertisers and other companies who are engaged in the sports, entertainment, and retail markets. And just to give you a perspective, every NFL game that you watch, $50 million is changing hands right during the game to create better consumer experiences. So those are the kind of markets that we are starting to target and build for them. So one of the other significant differentiators about us is we are engaged with actual real world businesses. We are part of the Intel partner program, where we are working with them actively to create new sorts of fan experiences for venues, right? And some of our other ecosystem partnerships include Magic, which is our hybrid custodial wallet provider. We work with on Fido for KYC AML stuff. Polygon Studios is obviously our preferred blockchain. We have a partnership with them, but we also, as I said, support Solana and others. So in terms of getting quickly to a case study here, I mentioned about Estrella, which is an actual brewery. So these guys do three things and they do them very well. They make good beer, right? But then they also sell a lot of merchandise. And the third thing is they sponsor a lot of events. So from our perspective, again, so because they go through a large distribution channel, can you hold on one second? That's my daughter. So since they go through a large distribution channel, they have no idea who's on the other side of the consumption practice. So what we did with them was to enable a very simple NFT drop that we tested it out with their consumers to make sure that they attended a particular event or what they were interested in. And there's a lot of data that you can gather through the process to integrate into their marketing practices. So this is obviously going to be an ongoing engagement where we are engaging people with airdrops, gathering a lot of data without the inefficiencies of the privacy part of it. So this is where I see a lot of NFT markets move in the future as well. From a product perspective, there's two ways to deploy what we have. One is a purely API-driven model that you can integrate into any of your existing infrastructure. And a second model is where we provide everything from the back end to the UI integration. And what you see on the right-hand side is a manifestation of, you can just plug in your brand. And because we build it in a headless fashion, you can actually customize your front end without you having to rely on pre-existing templates, so that every user experience can be a unique one. to give you a quick demo, if you want to scan the QR code on the screen or go to app.thenftbrewery.com, we've got an NFT brewery ecosystem digital collectible for you. And this will basically walk you through a very, very simple process on how you can, even if you do not have a digital wallet, we'll create a digital wallet for you on the fly and give you an NFT that will allow for future engagement with the NFT brewery as well. So either scan the QR code quickly or bookmark app.thenftbrewery.com. So the business model is basically SaaS, or we are also starting to move a little bit towards solution engineering, because a lot of these brands do need a lot of hand holding in terms of really figuring out how to engage and manage with their existing set of audiences. So not so as not to be disruptive to their existing revenue channels as well. From a team perspective, Rakesh and myself, we've worked together for about 12 years, the last 6 of which have been focused on the blockchain space. We were the first, hopefully, if I say this, we are the first entity to actually create equity on a blockchain back in 2018 for Proxima Studios, and these guys raised about $100 million to put Hollywood films on the blockchain. Valerie was the first hire for the crypto exchange Bitrue about 4 or 5 years ago. And we also have Dale from Stanford, and he's one of our advisors, looking after a lot of, bringing a lot of experience with communities, and from Pantera Capital, where he was previously there. A couple of other relationships, Kirk Reynolds, he was previously at the 49ers and Pac-12.
Aman, I hate to jump in here, but we're running
Okay.
out of time.
Quickly, that was my last slide on the team. And thanks for the opportunity to be here, and kudos to the SBA team for putting this together. Happy to talk a lot more about what we do. And if you need to reach me, I'm just aman@thenftbrewery.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Aman. Appreciate it. All right, Eva, are you, I've made you co-host, so awesome. Cool.
Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yep, you're good. I'll mute myself. All yours. Thanks again, Eva.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gil. Well, thanks again, everyone, and especially for the SBA team for organizing this. I'm Eva. I'll be presenting for Socket. A little bit about me. I studied math undergrad at Stanford and then computer science for my co-term here. We're currently working on this problem of social discovery in the space. So a little bit about the problem before I jump into the crypto version of this is that social discovery can be largely understood as the idea you could search a keyword and you find a list of people and actions. And the reason why someone might want to do social discovery are use cases like finding people who can intro you to someone else, finding people who are already working on projects and what they've been doing so far, and finding new users for your project or customer base. So there are a couple of reasons why you can't currently do this in a regular search engine. So the main reasons are, for example, social search relies on data from social media and websites who want to keep users on the platform through scrolling, through feeds, that make it really tough for developers to integrate with their API and export. So TikTok, for example, is likely to not share data with Twitter and vice versa. On the other hand, this makes traditional search engines like Google difficult to index in websites in this way, where because these social media websites don't share data, it's pretty hard to parse text into usable actions. So that's a pretty good reason why social discovery is hard in general. But it's even harder for people to do crypto discovery. It's really hard for users to, for example, find relevant information about who started a project, which of their friends have started a community or joined a DAO, and finding new projects in general. On the flip side, for teams who are launching new dApps projects, anyone, for example, who presented today, it's potentially challenging to figure out who's behind your protocol and who owns your token. And likewise, it's really tough to personalize call to actions. So here's some numbers. We found that 80% of people completely rely on friends to onboard into crypto. So for example, choosing what cold wallet to first use, as well as find projects, buy tokens, figure out when to join a project. On the flip side, 90% of teams cannot find any relevant social information about their users. And they spend around 5 hours productivity on engineering growth to use Dune analytics and a couple of other ways to do growth to figure out who their users are. there are two main reasons for why discovery is even harder in crypto. The first reason is actually that wallet addresses, the primary way people use to log into websites and also just to use apps, are too financially revealing, where they share every transaction in the future and past, as well as your entire credit asset history for everyone to use as an ID. So that means, in general, people find it pretty tough to find social information from just a wallet alone. Likewise, there's also no good way right now to search ties across chains and graphs. So what Socket does is that we realize that for ways to tie together crypto data and social graphs, you can actually create better ways to discovery, not just for crypto discovery, but also general discovery. And there are a couple of reasons why this is the case. The first reason we realized is that crypto generates real-time verified, anonymized, and public data, which means that if you think about transactions on any blockchain or any ledger, you have this idea of voting, donating, buying, all parsed into single units of data. And this is all tied to one single address. This also lets users basically do cross-app contacts and logins, where you can figure out what websites and what apps these wallet logins are used for. And the most important part of using crypto data when you combine with social graphs is that users and websites, so long as they keep on using the same logins on the same apps, they don't have to change their behavior in order to generate anonymized data and social graphs you can share across different apps and contexts. So as we're seeing recently, and I think as Matt has mentioned, we saw adoption of in-app crypto is only starting. We're Reddit now, and many apps that are adding in wallets and crypto-specific features have been using crypto data backends that let you do discovery without adding additional engineering overhead. So we're starting to see the solution be more welcomed by the way that people are setting up their apps. So to be more concrete, what this looks like for Socket is we do one thing: we take your verified transactions, so things like your on-chain data, and combine it with social graphs, which are off-chain data, like Twitter, Discord, Telegram, anything in that realm, and combine it to answer queries. Queries like, who are 5 of my friends who built something in the Amsterdam hackathon? Which users on Discord don't yet hold a token? What else are they buying? Who are Vitalics, or really any user in its top 10 most degen crypto friends on Twitter? We also let brands do things that you can't really do without crypto in a very easy way. So for example, you can reward every user who mentioned a brand's name on Twitter last week anonymously and let them claim that reward. You can follow people who voted for certain proposals on social and figure out basically who's actually mentioning your app's name across the board. So to be even more concrete, our exact offering suite is actually an API that lets you find on-chain information from off-chain information, and then vice versa. So you can type in contracts and holders to find socials, and then find people and on-chain transactions based on just the people you know. So let me just give a quick example of a use case. So let's say you're a sushi swaps team and you want to understand, for example, who are people that could be a potential user. You can first search your ERC20 token address. So let me just search the sushi token here. And you put it into our API. And we pull a list of people who currently hold the sushi token on Twitter. And here are some usernames you can go and check out to see that they are holding your Twitter. Say here, and then you can verify it for yourself. It is someone who's using Twitter. And we also can do this for example, Uniswap and any ERC20 token. And because, for example, you might care about the differences between your user bases, you can now put in Uniswaps and then compare the two for the kind of people that hold your token. Just loads from Uniswap. There you go. And you could do this for any really ERC20, 721, 1125. The other thing we can actually do is help people understand who of their Twitter followers and following are currently doing crypto. So I'm going to put Kuhn on the spot here and say, we want to, for example, find who's the users behind Honest Protocol. So what you can do is you put in a brand's username like Honest Protocol. All you need is their Twitter username. And you immediately find a list of people who we've narrowed down to be crypto people. And you can see their on-chain holdings and collections. I'm just showing a very simple example here where we're ranking popularity based on number of coverage across the users. But if you care about other things like, for example, balances, transactions, most recent activity, you can all do that. You can also find friends and do searches like, let's find the Stanford people for in crypto. So do a simple search. Here's a list of names. Here's our on-chain activity. You could do this for really anything that we're expanding. So we're doing, for example, the soccer one's pretty basic, but as we're expanding into data sources like GitHub commits and other off-chain data, you can do immediately see how on-chain holdings also reflect the choices of consumers in that sense. But that's a quick demo. In terms of case studies for how our current users, mostly big team users or dApps, are using our project. I'm going to dive into case studies. So the persona here is actually growth and community, people who have the goals of finding potential customers, so finding X thousand new users a month or reducing onboarding churn to X percent of users. So these are, for example, marketplaces, exchanges, token-based communities like NFT communities to launch, or protocols and dApps. And we offer a couple of features based on the API. And the first one is actually just very simple. You want to convert people you know on social media who already are engaged from a Twitter following and convert them into new users every single week. So you can just import your Twitter username and then export it into a CSV without needing to know their wallets. And you can kind of now do analysis on, hey, your user base might actually hold a lot of doodles. Your user base might actually be huge degens in doing like compound finance things. And you can target accordingly to your content and the kind of people you're reaching out to. The second kind of thing we do is personalized onboarding and content. We basically let people add in social graphs into crypto without doing additional engineering work. So if you're a dApp, right now today, if you do onboarding, you have a Discord, and when first people come in, they might see 30K unread messages without additional context on what people they already know are doing in a Discord. What we do is we help people, once they add in the social login, call our API, and the first thing you see is actually a call to action to here's content directly personalized for you. So for example, here's one of my friends' screens if they log in into an app. Likewise, you can personalize exchanges like OpenSea, NFT exchanges, marketplaces to showcase friends collections, which we found to be high retention and much higher volume in terms of what people care about in terms of creators and collections. So it's much easier for personalized content without any additional engineering work. And the final way people have used our API is actually to automate growth and referrals. So if you're a marketplace, you're exchange, you might want to onboard people like the way Clubhouse onboards people. You might want a high K factor. Currently, there is no good way to actually refer similar wallets or similar users. What we do is our widget lets people call our API and then immediately find their friends that are already huge degens or trading in crypto but aren't using the marketplace, and have a one-click invite to just go through the list as opposed to having users brainstorm who to invite and make it really tough on them. So we basically all do this without using any wallet addresses. You'll notice that in any of the demos, we never actually revealed wallet addresses, transactions, and balances. And the general vision for where this is going is that currently we have communities in crypto who have personalized and linked social graphs that lets you do things like login and search a bit faster than I think traditional types of apps and websites. These types of UI can let you now have profiles across apps that are shared without having to restore and recompute data storage every time across these graphs. Where we're going is actually taking all this context and letting people do a feedback loop of better context across apps, better user experience, and faster search across social contexts. So that's it. We're currently hiring founding engineering growth. I'm also happy to chat about anything else. Here's my contact info. So we'll pause there. Thanks.
Awesome. Eva, thank you so much. This is super interesting. Democratizing the analytics of big tech companies to everyone's stock people. No, I'm kidding. No, I love what you enable here. This is really neat. Right, next we've got Nat from Notebook.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'd also just like to start by thanking the SBA team for putting this on, for your continual support. Yeah, like myself and my co-founders found it super helpful. So yeah, as a quick intro, my name is Nat. I'm a sophomore here studying math. My two co-founders, Slow and Drew, are also sophomores, and we're building Notebook, which is bringing accountability to crypto by using zero-knowledge cryptography to power anonymous KYC and soulbound credentials. So currently there's an identity problem on Web3, which is due to a lack of identity infrastructure. So currently on Web3, people identify themselves through disposable and recreatable wallet addresses. And this means that there are frequent Sybil attacks as people are able to create multiple accounts and attack things like token airdrops or voting schemes. Moreover, there's also a system where people are able to commit fraud on wallet addresses and then simply start to identify themselves through a new wallet. So any kind of like fraud or default they have is untraceable. So because of this, DeFi protocols are only able to offer over-collateralized loans and are severely limited in kind of the scope of products they can offer. Moreover, many of the identity authentication models from traditional finance and Web 2 are simply unusable on Web 3. So standards such as KYC, which require you to store private information, cannot be done on-chain because smart contracts are completely public. And because of these restrictions, there's this trade-off that crypto protocols are kind of forced with, where they either pick keeping the users anonymous or making them accountable and enabling greater safety to their community and protocol. So kind of Notebook's realization was that we could use zero-knowledge cryptography to develop a better identity infrastructure layer that would deliver both the anonymity of wallet addresses with the accountability and trust of like the KYC and credit scoring stack that we see in traditional finance of BIP 2. So the kind of idea here is that we want users to be able to prove their access rights. So things like, I can prove to you that I would fulfill KYC without actually sacrificing privacy and revealing the information that led to that access right. Moreover, we kind of wanted a system where we would still have decentralization. So there's no kind of trusted third party which knows the link between your on-chain information and your off-chain information, but rather that kind of no one knows this link between your private personal data and your on-chain identity. And this idea of having no data custodians fits within the self-sovereign identity model, which is something we think is really important. And finally, we also want there to be privacy across multiple wallets. So, you know, as mentioned before, oftentimes crypto users have multiple different wallets because they're using crypto for different things. And they don't need to be linked. So it's super important that if you use the same Notebook account between like gaming and your high value loans, you probably don't want your like gaming friends to realize that you have like certain loans on Compound. Moreover, we have an identity stack which retains kind of the accountability that I mentioned before of KYC. So the idea is you shouldn't be able to simply commit fraud and then get a brand new Notebook account and start afresh. So how do we build this? So first we want to like prevent repeat enrollment, but kind of ensure that we still have privacy. So what we do is we store the hash of users' personal information so that the hash function has pre-image security, so we don't know kind of like who you are. But if you try like onboard again and create a new account, we can see a collision in the hash functions and prevent you from creating a new account. And this kind of keeps users accountable because they only have like one shot of developing a set of credentials and reputation scores. Moreover, we want to ensure that any trusted third parties who are doing things like verifying KYC information, or maybe it's a Twitter API, that they can't establish a link between your on-chain and your off-chain information. So in order to do this, all signatures are verified in zero knowledge so that these third parties aren't able to break your privacy. Moreover, Notebook follows a different identity authentication model than typical models. So instead of kind of saying that I am Notebook account holder number like 110, and then I have this KYC credential, what you do is you prove that you own a notebook within the subset of notebooks which have the KYC credential. And what this means is that you can use that same Notebook account across multiple different wallets, and no one realizes that it's the same person using that same Notebook account on those wallets. And because of this, Notebook doesn't follow a public key system, but does things like publish nullifier hashes to kind of prevent users repeatedly onboarding and things like this. So through this infrastructure and innovation, we've created multiple kind of products. So first is Sybil resistance. So we're able to do things like zero knowledge KYC and log in with Twitter. So you can kind of prove you have a Twitter account with like 500 followers, for instance, without revealing which Twitter account that is. We're also able to offer credit scoring where we can pull on-chain data, or users can pull on-chain data from multiple wallets that they control and kind of inform a universal credit score without having to link those wallets or expose any other information. Moreover, we've kind of built the Notebook identity layer with cross-chain capabilities and scaling in mind. So we think it's really important that identity layer for Web3 is cheap, so you don't have to pay like a large amount of gas to get those zero knowledge proofs verified each time, but rather that they're batched. And moreover, that you're able to use it on different chains. So for instance, if you defaulted on a loan on Polygon, it's kind of reflected in like your reputation scores and things on like Arbitrum, for instance. So this kind of identity stack is able to offer empower many new use cases for Web3. So initially, we're targeting airdrop civil resistance. So we have a partnership with a large wallet built on Aptos, and we're ensuring that they're able to provide civil resistance for the airdrop whilst retaining user anonymity. Notebook can also empower under-collateralized lending. So for instance, you can kind of go to a smart contract, publish a zero knowledge proof that you have a KYC credential and that you have a credit score above a certain threshold, and then access a loan. And then obviously, if you default on a loan, then your credit score would be limited. And this could empower like a completely new set of financial tools on DeFi. Also in the future, we believe that there'll be greater regulation in DeFi, and things like KYC will be super important. So with Notebook, you're able to build, you could be able to build KYC compliant solutions, which still satisfy like the privacy and decentralization. You kind of like fit within the DeFi ethos. Moreover, Notebook can also be used for DAO tooling. So things such as like anonymous voting and credential-based governance. So people can vote anonymously and then also verify that certain members of the DAO went to Stanford, for instance. So as I said before, we're a team of 3 Stanford sophomores with all have a math and theoretical CS background. So Salah and I competed in math competitions, and Dhruv has done compiler and full stack research. We were part of the YC Summer 22 batch, and during the YC batch, we completed our white paper, and then we also developed our zero knowledge KYC protocol, which we continue to do development and partnerships through. We also had a seed round, which was led by Bain Capital Crypto, among a couple of other funds that we closed in September. So in general, we're going to continue to onboard our KYC clients, but then also develop the rest of the Notebook suite. So things such as zero knowledge credit scoring, proof scaling and roll up. And then we have an audit with Trailer Bits to kind of complete before we do our full launch at the end of Q1 next year. So we're currently hiring. If you want to help build a new identity standard for Web3, please reach out. We're hiring both business and development roles. So if you've worked in business development in Web3 and you're interested in kind of helping shape the identity space, or if you have a math background or full stack background, it would be really happy to work with you. So yeah, please reach out. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Nat. It's been really great seeing how far you guys have come so quickly. And like, I know you killed it this summer. So congrats on all the progress. And next we've got CK with Honest Protocol.
Can you all see my screen? Can we see my screen?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yes, we can. All good.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. I recently just graduated from Stanford, my MBA in June, so it's excited to be back here with you all. I'm here with the team called Convex Labs, but specifically talking about our suite of products called Honest Protocol, and specifically the Honest Theft Detector, which is our first tool that we'll be launching. And so just to start at a high level, what this theft detector does is it provides real-time alerts, reports, and evidentiary support for NFT thefts. So along the realms of real-time and historical monitoring, risk flagging and categorization, collection insights, and then evidence and reports. So why is this important? Why does the world need this? I think if you've been in the NFT space for any amount of time, you know how susceptible the space is to scams and just so much activity, and not just NFTs, but in the entire Web3 space, there's been billions of value stolen. And so for all of us who are advocating for this new paradigm of digital assets and decentralization, it also does come with some trade-offs that we have to really face. So that's one. Secondarily, marketplaces are now mandating that for anybody who has a stolen NFT, you have to file a police report, which is a new shift. OpenSea made that a policy a couple months ago. And so that's going to require people to not just ignore, okay, I got my NFT stolen and move on, but they actually should take some action there. And then once you get scammed, most people, a lot of us hopefully in this call can hop on Etherscan and make sense of stuff. But for most people, it is not too easy to be able to just hop in Etherscan and make sense of what's happening. And then finally, getting scammed is hard enough. So we're trying to hopefully help people to be able to move forward when that does happen. So I'm not going to dive too much into it, but we're a really, really strong team. All of our core team members were officers of the Stanford Blockchain Club, and we have an incredible suite of advisors. And then we've also had a lot of our work featured in some prominent publications like Vice, Forbes, and if you hop on our Medium, we have a lot of really, really good content on there. So we'll definitely advise that. And with that team and with the people that we have on our team, we are well positioned, very well positioned to be able to tackle this problem. For one, we have deep expertise in blockchain forensics. So a lot of different things, both deterministically and probabilistically, to be able to understand what's going on chain. And then even some advanced things around Monero, Tornado, conjoined demixing that are going to be less important right now, but much more important as we continue to build our intelligence. And the second one is asset recovery. We've been contacted for different cases on helping with asset recovery, even when stuff is transferred to Monero. So that's a skill set that's very rare in the space. So we're definitely wanting to be able to utilize that. And so then also, now that we've started to take this and really hone in on NFTs, we've started to build up some really interesting data sets around identifying these stolen NFTs. Can't say too much for obvious reasons, but diving into that and even incorporating machine learning, we're just getting much more intelligent on how we're able to do this. And the long-term vision is that we will have one of the most powerful data sets in the world on a lot of this stuff. So this is really just the start. Then the last piece is high reliability. If you're going to be presenting this data, you need the data to be reliable. And so we have a lot of expertise there. So how does the theft detector work? The first step is real-time monitoring. So both real-time and historic, but in the real-time sense, we're able to scan all transactions block by block to identify any specific suspicious activity. And then we're able to, based on the type of suspicious activity that we identified, categorize this to give different levels of certainty as to how likely we believe this to be stolen. It's not a perfect system, and the thieves a lot of them are very smart. They're very intelligent, and it becomes a game of whack-a-mole where they're constantly changing up their approach. So we constantly have to be able to change up our approach on how we're identifying them. Once we have the categorization and we flag it, then we can actually provide context. So back to the point where most people can't really make sense of what happened. Approval for all was called, and that's how I was able to get hacked. We provide that context in here. And then that also leads into reports. So both the data and methodology are timestamped, and then we provide that as evidence for potential police reporting. And the last piece is, with all this, again, like I mentioned, it's a game of whack-a-mole, so we have to continuously optimize our methodologies. There's new methods for how people are getting scammed popping up all the time. So we are proactively going out and seeking those and building them into our models. So for somebody who's going to use the honest theft detector, so first of all, this would typically be like an NFT collection. It could be an NFT marketplace. It's going to be an NFT collector specifically focused on their individual wallet. How they would typically receive the data is in multiple channels, either on a web page, an API, a Discord alert bot. From there, then they can go and, of course, deep dive into the actual data on their specific NFTs, the ones that were flagged. So looking at risk scores and understanding the context around them. And then once we've confirmed that an NFT was stolen, being able to provide the evidentiary reports so that they can not only understand what's happening, but also file that police report. And so one of the cool things I like about the approach that we're taking, specifically going to NFT collections and marketplaces, is that by actually going to the owners of these NFTs, you can actually allow them to respond to you to say, hey, that wasn't stolen. I just sent that to my brother. I sent it to my other wallet. And for us, again, this is a continuous game of us being able to improve our model, being able to limit our false positives and false negatives. And so that allows us to continuously understand, okay, what do we flag as potentially stolen that wasn't, and what do we miss that was stolen, so we can continue to optimize there. And of course, the more collections that we get in front of, the more and marketplaces that we're working with, the more coverage that we get. And using machine learning, we can continuously optimize and understand the on-chain behavior better. And so you can ignore most of this roadmap, but the reason I put this on here is to say, again, one of the things I led with is that we do asset recovery. So if you can zoom out into the future, you mix the fact that we'll be collecting a lot of really a wealth of information about what assets are potentially stolen in the space, and we do asset recovery. The future of this could be very much large scale class action asset recovery, where it doesn't make sense to spend the time and go to court over one NFT, but 10,000 NFTs were stolen by a prolific hacker, then that makes sense for a lot of people. And potentially we can save a lot of people a lot of headache, to where I think right now the options are limited. Once your NFT is gone, it's very difficult to get it back unless the thieves were pretty we're not the best quality. And thank you for the time. We are hiring for our parent company, Convex Labs. A lot of it will fall into honest protocol and honest theft detection. But we're hiring for a quant trader, a blockchain researcher, and a full stack engineer. So if that's of interest, definitely reach out. Also, we have a lot of information that we have, a lot of articles that we've put out on our Medium around NFTs and around a lot of stuff that you need to know about NFTs, especially if you're trading, understanding some of the malicious activity that happens there. So definitely reach out. But yeah, thank you all for your time.
Awesome. CK, thank you. This is neat. Making the metaverse a safe place. All right. One NFT at a time. No, love it. Thanks, man. Okay, and next we've got Mo with Dazu, and this is kind of our shift from the more infrastructure analytics to the more kind of application-oriented side of things. So Mo, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thanks, Gil. Good morning. Sorry, it's 4 in the morning here in Cairo. I'm the founder of Dazu. We're a B2B payments platform for businesses focused on the Middle East and Africa. It's kind of like think between kind of Bill.com meets Ramp on Web3 for the Middle East and Africa. Now, when you look at B2B payments, something people don't usually realize is that actually it's much larger than consumer payments. So B2B is actually around 125 trillion globally compared to 52 trillion. And this actually kind of generates $130 billion worth of revenue for businesses around AP and AR. Now, when you look at the Africa and Middle East region, Africa is around 1.5 trillion and MENA is around 500 billion. Now, the kind of payment methods that are used, so bank transfer is actually the dominant one, but all of these payment methods have some serious pain points. So for example, businesses in Egypt, as an example, very cash-based. So they actually spend 30% of their finance team's time on manual reconciliation, which is wasted in terms of labor hours and cost. There's also a huge cost of theft, because of the cash available in the business. This happened to me personally, where my accountant actually stole around £70,000 by actually creating fake invoices or, faking payments to suppliers. Now, checks used quite consistently, lots of problems around that, especially around theft and fraud. And cards is, I know in the US now, probably like it's easy for companies to get cards, but actually in the Middle East and Africa, it's pretty much impossible for SMEs to get cards. So what happens is most founders actually end up using their own personal cards and then kind of figuring it out with the business later. A big emphasis, especially in Africa, is wallets. Egypt, for example, has around 30 million wallets at the moment. And I'm talking about wallets as in fiat wallets. But the thing is that only 5% are actually active. And yes, the number of transactions per month is accelerated from 3.9 to 227, but it's still really small for the whole population of Egypt. In terms of internet banking, the experience is really, really terrible. Like I'll give you an example. This is a screenshot I took when I was putting the presentation together. On the right, you can see a little virtual keyboard that they force you to use. And then every time you click a button, it kind of scrambles the keyboard for security purposes, which makes the experience really quite painful. At the same time, there is no open banking. So, the plaids of the world do not exist in our region. So what that means is that businesses can't really consolidate their data directly. And another big thing is that, for example, crypto in Egypt is illegal. And actually Nigeria, contrary to this huge emphasis on like Nigeria being great for adoption, it's actually also illegal for cryptocurrency. And when you talk to businesses about cryptocurrency, they get really scared about volatility when I'm talking about traditional businesses. And that's why we're very focused just on stablecoins and actually kind of hiding that within the solution. Now, in terms of market size, I don't want to jump into every country one by one, but just in comparison to the US, so the US has 6 million SMEs. The Middle East and just these countries, which is maybe 50% of the countries, we have around 10 million SMEs. If you look at Africa, it's even like on another level, especially Nigeria has 39 million SMEs compared to the 6 million in the US. So it's got a huge market size in terms of TAM, also in terms of number of customers. Now, I see the opportunity with blockchain and DeFi extensively around kind of solving these inefficiencies, focusing on using stable coins and only stable coins and potentially CBDCs. The interoperability and programmable aspect of allowing like escrow and dApps on top of it, it's very cost effective, and it also opens up new opportunities for treasury and DeFi. Now, the kind of solution that we've built is like multiple aspects. So you've got the company dashboard where people can go on and create, or the business can go on and create multiple wallets. So kind of like Brex or Ramp, if anybody's used that. So create multiple wallets for their people, for their businesses to be able to pay on their behalf. And I'm mainly focused on the finance department. And they also have, the business users have a mobile application, which allows them to pay through fiat wallets, through the USDC and Euro, and then potentially also virtual cards. And a big part is actually having these APIs to provide the open banking API that nobody else wants to provide. And that allows us to reconcile automatically with their ERP and their accounting software. So this is kind of a screenshot of our MVP. We've built out the QR code payments already, including using stablecoins. And then this is what this is how you manage it. So you can manage it using the wallets. You can look at the crypto wallets and how those privileges are set up for your business. The way it works is businesses can deposit or withdraw into their Dazu accounts, which allows instant B2B payments. For users on your behalf can pay using stablecoins, fiat wallets, cards, or ACH. We've got both Web 2 and a Web 3 kind of infrastructure to allow the payments on both types of rails. So Web 2 is more traditional. Web 3, we're really focused on Circle and crypto exchanges at the moment, and only using USD, Euro, and those kind of stablecoins. Later, we're kind of building our own kind of additional features on smart contracts and mainly focused on Celo. This is kind of our payment channels that we're focusing on at the moment. One thing we'd like to do later is actually provide IBAN or bank account numbers for the stablecoin accounts. So businesses, they themselves could be using stablecoins, but maybe the businesses they're interacting with don't necessarily need to be. In terms of our focus, only focused on the Middle East and Africa, starting with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE. We've got a kind of two-pronged approach in terms of who we're targeting. So first is the importers themselves. So we've got 3 pilots already, which are the guys who are kind of bringing in the goods and then distributing it through, like, let's say, 1,000 distributors. We've got a meat importer that signed up with around, they've got revenues around $20 million a year, a tire wholesaler of around 200 million, and a travel medical assistance company. And that's one side of the go-to market. The other side is actually interacting with the businesses at the very end, dealing with consumers, like let's say restaurants, et cetera, and actually working backwards. So we're kind of, for them, we're solving them the spend management side. And then for the businesses here, we're solving the kind of reconciliation and the AR side of their business. In terms of competition, there's a few competitors that are just launched and they just received funding. So still very, very early days. But there's opportunity for everybody to be able to build a unicorn within this space. So these are kind of some in Africa and the GCC. And there's a couple of indirect competitors, but they're mainly focused on kind of consumer payments. Just quick intro to myself. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've previously built a software company out of Egypt, built it out to 60 engineers and a sales office in Dubai. I'm also a Stanford grad. I just finished a one-year program, MSX program at the GSB. And during the last 15 years, I lived in Egypt. I've built over 150 applications for clients anywhere from Google to startups in the region. And I brought on a number of advisors. So from Stanford, I've got Omar Sududi, who's great advisors. He's already exited to Amazon with the first payment gateway in the Middle East. Charlie sold a company to Visa in Brazil. So these guys are on board as advisors. And we are hiring. My engineering team is going to be based out of Egypt, but I'm also augmenting that with a team in the US. So we've got multiple roles available. Thank you very much.
Awesome. No, thank you. This is great. Eager to see real world adoption of all of these use cases. And finally, our last team is going to be Dimi and Santiago with Ventu, who are looking at the other side of the world. So Dimi and Santi, I will let you guys take control. All yours.
Thank you, Gail. So we are Ventu, and we are bringing the blockchain to solve the problems that companies face when doing cross-border B2B payments. And especially, we are talking about a very compelling use case, and it's markets where there's a short sales cycle and lack of trust. Speed and transparency, it's very important to actually make these markets to work efficiently. And this is the case in which we are focusing our solution, and it's the corridor between US and Mexico on the products of energy, agriculture, and perishables. Let me explain a little bit why. So these are products and markets where there's no trust, and the sales cycles is short. So usually it takes 5 days to sell the product and to move it from one side of the border to the other. So if a transaction takes 1 day or 2 days, you are requiring 20% of the sales cycle time just on the transaction. And usually transactions are not 24/7. So this time, the more time that you need to spend on sending the money or not being able to send the money 24/7 actually implies selling less. Also, there are higher costs, not only the fees and the FX margin, which usually it's between 1% and 3%, but taking more time, the payment implies spending more money on storage and transportation. And third, there's an increased risk given the lack of traceability and the increase of disputes. What we're building is a 2.5 solution. Why? Because we're giving a Web 2.0 solution for the user that it's going to track and manage their payments in our platform. But we're using the blockchain rails to offer instant, completely traceable transaction. So we are integrating these solutions. We're integrating the FX, the on-ramp and off-ramp, disbursement collection, wire transfer, and lending in one same platform. We're using fiat and stablecoins just to reduce and mitigate the risk of volatility. We have designed an architecture in which we have a completely regulatory compliant architecture. It's user-friendly because we have been talking and interviewing with the users, and they needed something very intuitive, very basic in order to deal and manage with their payments. And we are allowing third parties to provide other services like lending. The way that we have built this is that we have financial partners on each side of the border. So we have a financial partner in Mexico, a financial partner in US, which they will receive the fiats. And we will do the exchange and do on our side, integrated in an automated process, the on-ramp and off-ramp, transfer to a wallet, offer the transfer, offer escrow when they need it, or staking.
The way we're going to market is we're especially starting with direct sales in the B2B payment corridor between Mexico and the US, especially in the verticals of energy and agriculture. We're starting with these verticals because they are massive and there's a lot of lack of trust, not access to credit, and is completely underserved by the banking sector. However, to do a go-to-market strategy that is very disruptive and grows very fast, we're also doing partnerships with lending companies and logistic companies. When we talk about this, we mean maybe fintechs that offer credit to other sectors and that they have customers doing international trade, such as Zeppelin, Fincargo, and amongst others, but that they need to track, have control and visibility of the payments of their customers. Same happens with logistic startups, such as Nowports, amongst others. The way we operate these partnerships is we have a revenue share agreement, both in the FX and also in the revenue that we have from our blockchain-based products. The part of the software, which is the more Web 2.0 part, is free, and then the transaction fees for the customer are also free. When we look at the competitive landscape that we have today, there are mainly 4 kinds of players. First, we have the more traditional players, remittance companies such as MoneyGram, Western Union, and amongst others, which we know that are slow and are just focused on moving the money from A to B. These companies are being disrupted by some initial retail startups such as Beam and Global 66 that are, offer lower transaction fees, fast payments. Some of them are starting to use crypto, but they just also focus to move the money from A to B. And then we have, on the other side, companies such as Tipalti or Build.com that have all the features needed for companies that are doing domestic payments. And we think we are there in the sweet spot of bringing together these two worlds, the world of making fast international cheap payments, but at the same time giving businesses in Latin America all the necessary tools for them to operate every single day and manage all their finances in one single place. And in addition, we have an additional player, which is Bitso or crypto exchanges, which they also offer international payments. However, no business in Latin America is going to stay compliant and is going to use directly crypto or an exchange. And hence, that's why we also fit in the center of all of this. To be able to build this, we have an amazing team. Dimitri is our CEO. He comes from a background of banking. Then he had a master's in public policy at Harvard. He worked in government in senior positions for more than 80 years, such as being the Vice Minister of Finance, Vice Minister of Infrastructure, and leading the National Infrastructure Agency, which is the agency in charge of all ports, airports, and transportation infrastructure in Colombia. And now he came to Stanford. He already graduated from the MSX, and we started to build this together, and here's where we met. I have a different background, more on the computer science and economics space. I already built a very large company in the edtech space, growing it from 0 to more than 1,000 institutional clients. I've done a lot of blockchain research, and I've also worked for Bitso, which is one of the largest exchanges. But we have a larger team. We have as an advisor Mike Kennedy, which is the founder and was the CEO of Cell, which many of you might know. As founding engineer, we have Kevin Franco, which was the founding engineer of EasyPay, which is like the Stripe in many countries in Latin America. And then as COO, Oscar Salas, which has been the head of many countries for many unicorns and fintechs across Latin America. So together, we invite you guys, anyone that is interested. We're constantly hiring. We just closed our first large round of funding, and we're excited building the product. And we're launching actually in a couple of weeks. So we're in very exciting times. Thank you, Jill, for your time. And thank you, everyone, for coming to the accelerator.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Like I said, it's exciting to see kind of real world applications on two different sides of the world, and especially kind of looking at it from different angles here and what this actually empowers from a real value use case. Sweet. So with that, that's all of the teams. Big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Thank you to the teams for your Herculean efforts over the last 6 to 12 months. It's been like exciting to see how far you've come. I love that we had so many real demos, that many of you have real customers and users and are post revenue, and everyone seems to be hiring. So it doesn't seem as much of a bear market on this side of the metaverse and the cryptoverse. Real quick, we'll be sharing the recording to our Stanford Blockchain Club website shortly. We'll also be adding more detail on the teams themselves to our site. If you want to reach out to them in the short term, feel free to, again, many of them share their info either in the chat or during the presentation itself. Also, you can reach out to me, again, Gil Rosen at Stanford.edu. That's GILR. Right in the subject.